Once again, this has been really beautiful. We are just two down and two more to go. It's, as I said, today is an exciting day. Life never ceases to be amazing, and I'm literally learning every hour. I'm learning, right? Means that's probably true. In the first one, I think, when Bob was talking about trunk slammers, I had never heard that word, but as he was explaining the context, it makes sense. Like, yeah, you have it. No, slam a trunk, go to the next one. No, it should not be. There has to be rationality, the intentionality, the curation of the experience first, understanding what really people want at that moment in time, at that moment of space, at that kind of an intersection of the lifestyle and the benefits you want, and then do it. And then I think, as John was saying, that is enough evidence to take it back to your leadership team in saying, this is the evidence, these are the reasons, this is the testimonial, these are the anecdotes of real people, real roofers and tilers and plumbers on the job. This is the reason we are going to go and be a little bit polarized or way more polarized. And that's would be the way we're going to carve out the market. Like, I think the analogy he made about you want to be really a big fish in the small pond or small fish in the big pond. It all depends on the strategic perspective. But polarization works because polarization comes back to looking out the finely uniqueness, compelling elements of your products and the product functions, and not literally missing out in this, or maybe losing out in the sea of banality as such. So it's amazing to see different perspectives as such. And let's give a warm welcome to Phil. Phil, I see you over there patiently waiting for us. Feel free to unmute yourself and have appear on the video. As Phil is coming in, I have to let you know, Miranda Berner, one of the co-owners and the marketing person over there, she had to bow out because of a medical reason. She was looking forward to be on this call, and she loves genuinely the intersection of functionality and design. So if not today, we will try to make sure we will have Miranda in our next session. But that gives us an opportunity to hear Phil's perspectives and insights and observations. And Phil, thank you again for your time today.
Yeah, GVAC, it's very good to see you. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to now carry the entire things and bring to the table from both I would say the operations parts and the marketing part. But it will be fantastic to see what things are over there. I know you have been in a management specialist and 25 odd years in the product development world, working with big and small companies as such. So I think most of this will come in the actual presentation too. But before we start, Phil, let our audience know, what do you do for fun?
What do I do for fun? So at the moment, my fun is comprised of building a new house. So we just bought 10 acres of land. And so my fun is all about watching the house take shape and thinking about what I can do with that land and trying to sell my house. That is all I have time for at the moment.
That is a pretty big undertaking. Remind us again, which city and state are you from?
So Berner International is in Newcastle, Pennsylvania. It's about 40 miles north of Pittsburgh, PA. And so, yeah, that's where we are.
And that's where you're also building the house nearby?
Yes.
Awesome. That's a beautiful area, I think. Fall area. I tried to come over there and first visit very near to where you was in the first year when I had to see the Falling Waters, Frank Lloyd Wright's creation.
Yeah.
I was literally waiting for it till I reached America. I did not go to Statue of Liberty, did not go to Niagara Falls, to Las Vegas, did not go to New York. The first and foremost was museums before, and then making sure I visit the place which I always.
It's phenomenal. And I tell you what, it's funny you mentioned that. That's I think the first time I went there was back in the early 90s. And yeah, it's amazing to look at that integration of the landscape and the water and the rock and how the house is positioned and how the windows are positioned. And it's really just, it's inspirational. And it's so funny you brought that up. I hadn't thought of that before, but I swung by my house on the way in and I was kind of standing on the first floor. We're in framing right now. And I was looking out the windows and I was checking out the views and just, thinking about how the house was positioned. And Yeah, it's similar. I have a stream, you know what I mean? Not quite as beautiful a stream, of course, as where falling water is positioned, but
I would
you know,
urge you.
there's so many opportunities to do beautiful things.
I would urge you to go back there again right now because you are in the midst of house building,
Oh yeah.
and again it might derail some of your ideas. But man, once you go in the space, means you know the story of the falling waters, right? Means literally he went with the client and asked or tell me about. He said he showed him a different space and said I want the house over here. He said let's
Hmm.
not talk about house. Tell us how why you come over here. And then the client told about I come with my family and we spend time on this rock and that's where we typically have our picnics and all those things. He said like that's it.
Hmm.
We're not talking about that site. We'll build right over here. Like, what? Yes, we'll
Oh,
right over here.
absolutely.
And then
Talk
it's
about a challenge.
that's a completely different challenge. And
Hmm.
the house might have a different elements to see right now, but it's a wonderful space. So
Hmm.
that's really interesting. And I think as a part of your job at Berner Air Curtains, most of your thing is about understanding this space and the stylizing part of it and what's needed and what are the goals of not just the aesthetics of it but also the sustainable parts of the bills that we pay and all those things. So I think
Very
I
much
can
so.
hand over the stage to you. Feel free to share. Let's go with some of the elements of this completely different. Means I think as since start I have been talking about products and especially innovation in the commercial products. This one really takes the cake. Means knives are good, tools are good, everything is good. But I think you are designing an invisible product and still talking about design and what design can input into a product where you are designing it to be, I would say, camouflage into the architecture as such. So it's amazing to see how you are getting inspired by the world of design, using it, and then trying to see how it finally adds to the value proposition. So
Oh,
again,
very good. That's the perfect segue. So just to bring everybody up to speed, so Berner International manufactures primarily air curtains. So anyone who has been in, you know, a big box store, a grocery store, it is the device that blows a high velocity laminar stream of air across, you know, in many cases the front door, but in some cases the back door, to separate environments. And our mission statement is saving energy and creating healthy, comfortable environments. So again, it's all about environmental separation, keeping, you know, the unconditioned air out, keeping the conditioned air in, keeping the insects out and the fumes out. Again, it just GVAC, exactly as you said, it's about that indoor experience. So, you know, when I was invited for this, I was thinking, okay, you know, it's a talk about, you know, how do you differentiate your products? What's your process and how do you do it? And I wanted to kind of answer that with our journey through one of the last products that we launched, and that was our architectural elite air curtain. And again, it was very much about that internal experience. And that product was in our portfolio, it was top of line. So it was the product where, you know, it was geared towards architects and interior designers and things like that. Those people that are, you know, responsible for the experience inside. So anyway, like I said, you know, kind of just want to kind of recap the journey of this product development process and kind of, you know, that was my method of saying, how do we differentiate our products? So again, you know, when you work for an air curtain manufacturer, you've got lots of friends, you've got lots of family, and they go into their nice restaurant in January and they call you up and they're like, I'm freezing at the front door. Why is this place not using your products? Or they're at a hotel anywhere in the world and they're like, I was inside the lobby and it was cold or it was humid. But long story short, everything that was outside, this should be outside, was making its way in. And they said to you, you know, why do these places not purchase your product? This is perfect for this place. And basically, you know, engineers and architects, you know, basically, you know, hey, air curtains are ugly, they're loud. There's something that not, you know, they don't complement the interior. They actually, you know, they work against it. It's something that I don't want to see, and it's something that I don't want to hear. And the image on the right is, you know, it's a well-built product. It's a quality product. It works well. You know, it performs well. The controls are really good. But if you look at it, and if you look at it through the eyes of an architect or through the eyes of an industrial designer, or I'm sorry, an interior designer or an industrial designer, you know, what do you see? You see fans, you see motors, you see materials that don't really match the space, you see shapes that don't really match the space, and you know, you kind of know what it is, and it sticks out, right? So again, for our overall process, when we want to replace a product and it's top of the line and it's for architects, we want to define what we want from that product. This is typical for probably everybody that's involved in this discussion. You've got your goals and your differentiators that you want to achieve, and you want to make sure you're talking to the right people. And we're talking commercial and industrial, so we kind of use the general term of audience because we have a relatively complex distribution channel. We have manufacturers, reps, we have dealers, we have end users, all those types of things. So it's kind of a mix of people that are our target many times. So the one thing that we did that was a little bit different with this, as we were trying to be a little bit more sophisticated with our new product development process, is to get outside of ourselves a little bit. And I think, as people maybe come back to your thought corner and maybe they'll watch this video, I think one of the biggest maybe benefits for some of the people that are maybe small or medium-sized commercial or industrial manufacturers is to kind of get out of that groove, where what you do is you pull in all your disciplines and you talk to sales and production, and sales says to you, if we had this in blue, if we had this in those 3 colors, if we had this that was metric as opposed to standard, if the handle turned this way, we wouldn't have lost this job or that job or that job. And really what you do is you cut yourself off from the rest of the world, and you find your opportunities through only your internal experiences and only your internal perceptions of what you need. And it's really common. It's a great way to be iterative. It's a great way to have products that just make really incremental steps. And you can be reasonably successful with that, as we have been over many years. But this was the first time we decided to really leave the building a little bit more. And as it says here in the second point, we wanted to go outside of ourselves and find design firms. And for this one, we actually hired 3 different design firms. And it was an amazing education. And I would tell companies that are thinking about doing this to invest the money, invest the time, and get the education, and learn about visual brand language exercises, and create dozens of concepts. It was common previously, and I'm sure a lot of people do the same. You'll create 3 or 4 concepts that achieve those things that it takes to miss those 4 jobs that you missed, and kind of keep it at that. But it's amazing the number of concepts you need to really create to find the right ones. Now, this is something I'll talk about in a little bit. Our team chose the concepts we wanted to develop and the winning concepts. And this is something that I don't know if I'll do again. We got lucky this time, and I think we did a really good job. But as I look back on this process, it was something that had the opportunity to go wrong. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. We did market research. We actually invested in the market research. A lot of people say they do the market research, but many times they don't. We did it and got a tremendous amount of good feedback from it. And then, of course, at the end, you take that winning design and you commercialize it. And we have, kind of a pretty typical NPD stage gate process that we run. So the audience for us, again, like I've talked about, it's architects, it's interior designers, the interior experience, the design of the ambiance of the space, hotels, restaurants, even healthcare facilities. The ambiance, it matters. We didn't want to detract from that positive experience. We wanted to complement it. We wanted to make that interior experience even better. So part of our education and part of how we evolved through this process was that we realized that a lot of things that we were learning that we were going to apply to this particular product, we could actually apply to the company as a whole. And we realized that, as a large goal, we wanted to establish Berner as the design leader. We wanted to be the leader in aesthetics and performance, sound and engineering, all those things that the architects and the interior designers wanted to have. They want it to look good. If you have to see it, it's got to look good. They want it to perform, as our products always have. They want it to be quiet. They don't want to, they don't want it to be too loud. They don't want it to affect the conversations of the people around the equipment. And of course, it has to be sound from an engineering standpoint. And again, these are things that we realized, we want to reinforce these things in our brand, no matter what we do, no matter what product we're developing. So one of my I'm a 2x2 matrix junkie, and this is the one that I've been using the most recently. And really, it's like, hey, how do you differentiate this product? And of course, what you want to do is you want to know what's important to your customer. And I highlighted this particular cell in red because, for me, this is where the magic happens. This is kind of the special sauce. A lot of us talk to a few customers, and they take that in its form, and that's it. And it's important. And you want to know, in those areas, do you have a product that performs well, or do you have a product that's lacking? And I think a lot of companies, all the companies that I've worked for thus far, have done a really good job of knowing, is their product disadvantaged or is it differentiated in a certain area? A lot of these things are quantified for our particular industry. How much air are you moving? How fast are you moving it? How much energy are you consuming? These are quantifiable things. And if you're good at it, and if you're not. The key here for me, and the part that to me, like I said, is difficult, but has all the opportunity, is to know what's important to the customer. And as I say here, the customer knows what his needs are based on his definition of success, and his perceptions of what options are available to achieve it. And we'll talk about the market research and the type of market research that we did a little bit. But I found that to be, if all it took was to ask your customer what they needed and to make all those things perfect, if that's all it took, we'd all be market leaders. But it takes a little bit more coaxing, I've found, because the customer, he's busy. He or she is busy. They're worried about their own business, the service they're providing. They're worried about billing, accounts payable, all these things, their customer service. They don't really have time to worry and ponder about, their energy savings or comfort mechanism at the front door, and what possibly, could be, done better in that area. They rely on you for that. So again, I like to learn about what the customer defines as success, and I like to think of ways that our products can achieve that, and kind of combine that with what they say to come up with things that are in fact highly important to the customer. So of course, when we ran that exercise, it was, what are our key differentiators? Yes, we want best in industry aesthetics, and that's a dangerous statement, right? Because it's sometimes you get some opinions in there. But we wanted to leverage our advanced control technology. That's a place where we are strong. We have an Internet of Things platform that works perfectly for this type of product, and we wanted to spend a little bit more money and get a little bit more of our variations certified by third parties in terms of performance. And we wanted to use the most energy efficient motors. So we said, okay, we do those things right, we're going to end up with a really differentiated, effective product in the market. Do you have any questions, any thoughts? Sometimes when I talk too much and too long.
No, this is good. We can go through this, and then there are already questions, and we can try to answer questions. But that's pretty interesting to understand the way even you came with the overall design process, about trying to make sure you knew when to bring a design firm, you knew when to go with the market research, not necessarily design research. So I will let you go with your flow, and then we can go and discuss.
That sounds awesome. I appreciate it. So this is the part that I like. This is the part that I'm most intimately involved with. This was the design process for the product. And as I mentioned, the visual brand language exercise was something that I didn't know about. It was something that the companies like Sundberg-Ferar taught to me and taught to our company. And for us, we wanted to be seen as dynamic and strong and sophisticated. And we wanted to create a design that communicated that. Never before had I thought that, you could communicate your brand via features, via design. So this was exciting. Another thing that was taught to us were signature design elements. We wanted to include things, I mean, again, when you're a student of this, you love it because you think of BMW and you think of the oval intakes in the front, and you think of the propeller logo, and you think of that little kickback on the C-pillar on the back of the car. That's something I think they've been doing since the 60s. And, if you put that logo on a toaster, I'm like, that's a BMW toaster. And that's just, one example of how powerful it is to reinforce geometry and things and that do reflect your brand. So for us, again, and this particular project was the first place where we implemented signature design elements, but all the products that we have in the pipeline right now reinforce those signature design elements. And that flows into the next thing, which is now we had an official, documented Berner design philosophy. And one of the ways we did that is to say, hey, how do we want the customer to experience our product at different distances? And so for us in this particular product, and of course for other product lines in our portfolio, this may change a little bit, but the overall design philosophy is that at 25 feet, it blends in with its surroundings. It looks like it belongs. To be honest with you, you don't notice it. It's just part of the environment. And architects and interior designers were absolutely on board with that. If you don't realize, if you don't really see, if you don't see the equipment, you don't know what it is, you don't know it's an air curtain, and that's great. That's what we're shooting for. And at the 10-foot distance, now things like signature design elements come into play. You realize, oh, you know what? Okay, maybe that's an air curtain. I see that full-length strip across the front. I see the logo. Okay, hey, that's a Berner air curtain. And you know what? Hey, that design's pretty cool. I like it. And then at the 2-foot level, that's when you experience the build quality. That's when you see the user interface. That's when you say, okay, I know how to use that. I know how to make this product do what I want it to do. And if I have to maintain it, I kind of have the placement of fasteners and the placement of things that kind of intuitively tell me, how do I work on this product and how do I fix it if I need to? So again, that 25, 10-foot, 2-foot design philosophy kind of helped us. Again, it guided us as to, what design concepts we thought were great, which ones maybe didn't hit the mark. So this is something, GVAC, I stole this from you guys. Since it's your show, I hope you wouldn't mind. But this was our VBL process that we used, or that we received from Sundberg-Ferar for this particular product. And again, it was an education. I didn't realize, the incredible amount of variation and sheer volume of concepts that can be developed, for a product like ours. Air curtains are the descendants of air handlers that are hidden on roofs, and furnaces that are hidden in closets and hidden in the basement. And so all of a sudden, I realized that, this doesn't have to be a square box. This doesn't have to be this. There's an incredible amount of forms out there that are available to us. And it was really fun to watch the skilled designers create these concepts. And as you can see over here, all the different profiles they were thinking about applying to the front. Again, our product is something that you may buy. It may be 3 feet long for a small door. It could be 12 feet long for some of these larger doors. So whatever type of geometry we chose, it had to be adaptable, for all kinds of lengths, finishes, heat types, all those different things. So lots of constraints, but the folks at SF did a great job. Again, more concepts, dynamic, strong, sophisticated, our visual brand language. And we went through the process. It was fun to go through and I don't know, develop those words, because we didn't want something trendy. We didn't want something, we wanted something that was timeless. So dynamic, strong, sophisticated. Again, strong shapes and all those things I think communicated that. Even more of these. Again, a tremendous amount of volume. And I think it was kind of funny. I think these guys were testing us a little bit too. I think they were like, let's test them a little bit and let's put some stuff in there, which is a little bit crazy, and see if we can make them uncomfortable. So that was kind of fun too. I'm sure they were sitting there presenting some concepts and just waiting for us to cringe a little bit.
It's always nice to for anybody, for any project, to literally push further the envelope, take events, and then again come back. So not just going from mild to wild, but making sure what would go, what might be the other things we can learn in those contexts, and then eventually again coming back to the world of reality also. But this is a great flow. I'm enjoying it again. I'm reliving it.
I think I remember at one point our production manager broke into a cold sweat 200 miles away, not knowing the concepts that we were looking at, and there was absolutely no straight lines in some of them. And when you're a sheet metal shop, that's frightening. So anyway, really cool to go through that. Now we ended up, and these are just some examples. These are actually not our top concepts, because I don't want to communicate our top concepts, because a lot of those are actually in the hopper and they're in the process of being developed and are going to come to market. But what we did is we worked through the process. Hey, these 4 or 5 forms look good to us. Take them to the next level. Know the size of fan that has to go in there. Know the heat options that have to be enclosed. know the processes that we have. So we really, as a lot of the people on this conversation are going to understand, you just develop these further into something that's getting close to something you can actually make. And I think we ended up with maybe, a half a dozen from each particular design firm. And so when we came back to our office, we probably had 18 to 20 developed concepts that were contenders, absolute contenders. And this was the interesting part. Like I said, no outside influence was used in terms of what were the top concepts and which one should we use for our market research. And before the market research, I didn't even think of it, but it was really, in my opinion, it was risky because again, you've got a group of people have their opinions of, what should the best looking air curtain in the world look like? What should our top of line product look like? We're just a bunch of people. We don't buy air curtains. I think it was John before that. What did he say? The original sin of product development is you don't design a product for yourself. And it was such a dangerous point because that's kind of what we could have been doing. But anyway, so the market research, and this is where I was hoping to have Miranda with me. She's our expert in market research, but I'll do my best to kind of talk about it. We invested that time and money. I'm trying to think, it took us a month or two to really put together the right people to talk to. I think we had a list of maybe 600 people, the databases from various sources, as well as just relationships to put together the right architects in retail, for hotel and restaurants, as it says, the people that are decision makers, all the people, again, it was so important to put together the right people. We don't want to do all this time and effort and money and talk to the wrong people and get the wrong answer. So before I, kind of show how we launched and teased and promoted the product,
Can I ask you,
yeah.
in the field of market research, what do you prefer? Personally, as a company, what do you prefer in the various tools that we have for marketing?
Sure. So you've got, again, the 2x2 matrix junkie here knows you've got your primary and secondary, you've got your confirmatory and your exploratory market research. And for us, like I said, yeah, absolutely talk to your customer. I'm not one of these guys. I'm not going to throw out the Henry Ford quote about the faster horse or some Steve Jobs quote about, not so much ignoring your customer's input, but, maybe thinking better. But I haven't personally, and again, this is our industry, and maybe, after we run a few more projects, that may change my tune. But I found that exploratory research, like primary exploratory, didn't work very well. I found that primary confirmatory worked extremely well. I found that when I gave the right people a few choices, I got really clear, actionable data in terms, that we could use to move forward. Sometimes when it was opened up too much, again, they just, I found that our customers are so busy that, they're working on their business. And let's face it, to come up with a good idea, sometimes you need that full night of sleep and the long drive and a big cup of coffee and the right music, and you come up with something good for your company. But of course, I'm thinking about my company. I'm not thinking about everybody else's. So, when it was too wide, I didn't get a lot of good stuff. But when it was confirmatory and it was primary, it was good. We did some secondary work. There was a lot of data just from our sales data. We took a look and tried to pull some trends from that. But what we did was take top concepts, we modeled them, we kind of simplified them a little bit. We modeled our current products and we modeled the products of our competitors. And we put those in front of the right people, and we did kind of a randomized order of showing them different concepts, and then asked them what they did and didn't like about them and had them rate them. And like I said, we got a little bit lucky because, the internal team chose all the concepts, but it was clear when we were done that we had a concept that was the best, and that concept was liked better than our existing products. And that concept was liked better than our competitors' existing products. So we, and like I said, it was clear. And the reasoning was similar. And so it was great. We had great confidence after the market research that we were bringing the right design to market. So a little bit of luck there, but hey, once in a while,
Awesome.
you know,
Thank you. That
it's
was
nice
great.
to get lucky.
No, no, it's that a great answer, because you're right. It's a continuum where some people just rely on just the data from the clients and what do you want and just queue them, which is literally maybe the phase zero sin. Like, because if you just start giving people what they want, are we killing the earth, right? Means it's we have to think about the context. And other hand is just not completely listening to them, as you're saying about Steve Jobs or
Yeah.
anybody. Is the right balance in between, right? Because even as
Mhm.
John was saying, is nice to, is not to listen to them, is to understand them. They
Very
might
good.
not be knowing the right vocabulary, or they might not be able to externalize what they really want and articulate what they want. But
Mhm.
that's where, as designers and as clients like you, we come in to understand, okay, what is the syntax they're using, what is the grammar they're using, what is the structure they're using to answer the questions, rather than going for do this or this or this. And that's the art and the science of choosing and
Sure.
understanding what really is. Communication is not about what you tell, it's about what you understand, and then how you
Mhm.
make sure you understand the right things to fit in the right buckets. But that's right on. Thank
No,
you
that
for.
was beautifully put. Thank you. So hey, let me just keep running through. And the way we chose to promote this product was kind of a tease. It was to, you know, say things like this, you know, but you never thought an air curtain, you know, could be sleek enough for this entrance, not showing the product at all. And it was a nice progression, you know, for the people on LinkedIn, you know, and the people in our database. And, you know, again, just showing types of entryways that people, you know, maybe the architects would cringe about putting a product on, you know, is this worthy of your front door? And so bang, then eventually, you know, we dropped the concept. So in this, and I think our commercial and industrial, you know, friends on the line will appreciate this. When you launch a product, it's tough to find a real world place to install it, you know, to find that right entrance, to get the professional photographer there, to get them there on time, you know. And so we ended up, we went with the rendering initially, but it shows that clean shape. It shows the crisp lines of the design. It matches the lines of the door. You don't see the fans. You don't see the motors. You know, you don't know if it's an awning. You don't know what it is. It's got the signature design element. It's got the strip moving across. I'll have more images in a sec. But again, it was just, hey, you know, this is an air curtain that matches the front door. This is one you don't have to be embarrassed. This kind of shows you what you can do with proper design. So then, you know, after we kind of hit them with the design and the concept and showing it over the door, you know, because this is commercial industrial, they got to know the sizes. Hey, what horsepowers are they? How big are they? You know, a little bit more detail. You know, what kind of controls are there? You know, what kind of finishes? What types of materials? You know, so again, you know, you got to give them the information they need if they need to spec it. And again, reinforcing those differentiated features, talking about how quiet they are. You know, we put the intake on top, and that so you don't see what's inside, and so you know it cuts down on the noise a little bit. That direct line of sight between you know all the action, you know, the action items inside in your ears. So anyway, we launched it. You know, a trade show had fantastic attendance. It was actually the same night as a trade show. This was right before COVID hit and shut everything down. We took actual products down to Florida. Fantastic response from the reps. You know, anytime a person says an air curtain is sexy, you know, you figure you did something right. So that was great. And anyway, and this is one of the first installs we had. It's a little bit oversized of a product for this particular door, but it does show, you know, you've matched the finishes. You know, it looks like it works on that doorway. You've got the signature design element. This is something I'm going to be reinforcing. So again, over the years, as we reinforce these features, you know, they'll be more recognized in the marketplace, and it just kind of builds our brand equity and, you know, and that visual brand language.
That's beautiful, Phil. That's really beautiful. Means it's, as we come back to the functionality and invisibility, but still making a statement. Once you know what that blade is, that futuristic blade over there is, and I would say that's we talked about the loudness and the ugliness, and
Mhm.
tackling those two head on, locking the horns with those things. That is pretty amazing. And this is actually means it's a great case study when we also talk with as a studio with people, and because we are right on the dot, it's it's a commercial industrial product. People,
Yes.
you are not trying to think about it, but when you come and try to think about it, how do you understand and get the approach together with all the attributes, right? And saying, hey, if we are not going to be a distraction, we can at least try to blend in with that architectural sense. And that's where the comes in. There's nothing in this world that will be only functional. There's always an elements of emotionality and the
Hmm.
personality attached to it. So this is beautiful. So you talked about the second last photo was with the pre-COVID, as you said. I
Hmm.
think so. How do you means in this COVID world in the product design, has it affected your manufacturability or the any product development challenges? Because I think in some industries, because of the COVID, it has affected a lot. How is your industry doing in that?
Yeah, it is for us. In terms of manufacturing the product, we've had to do a tremendous amount of things in terms of like splitting up our manufacturing workforce a little bit, making sure we have certain shifts, that there's a gap in between. You know what I mean? We've definitely done some things in terms of scheduling, in terms of inventory. We've upped, or I should say, we've reduced our inventory turns a little bit. We just had our quarterly meeting today, and if you look at what we're spending on inventory right now, it's going up a little bit because we want to mitigate that risk in terms of running out of anything, because getting certain things is becoming a little bit more difficult. And of course, just like everybody else, implementing so many procedures and things like that in terms of cleanliness and separation. Um, we have done a really, I don't know if we're good or if we're lucky or what, but so much of our workforce has actually been working remote for the last year. And our results and the effectiveness of our employees hasn't really suffered. I mean, yes, we've quadrupled our Zoom meetings. You know what I mean? We've gone through all those things that everybody else is going through, but um, knock on wood, we've come through this, pretty unscathed.
That's pretty amazing. One thing as we're talking about, was it difficult to make the transition from industrial design, conceptual world to the actual commercial product world?
Yeah, yeah. So to take a look at the product that we see here, it really was, previously, and again, this is, as I say, we're the descendants of air handlers and furnaces and things like that, things that are square, things that, that are a box where you have a flange that bolts to another flange and it's easy. This is something where if you glance, at this, there's no exposed fasteners. You don't see, the working parts of it. There were a lot of fit and finish challenges here, and it really challenged me. It challenged the team to take a concept which looked gorgeous on paper and did everything we wanted to do on paper. It communicated the VBL. It had the design elements. It was top intake. Again, all those different things. We're a company where you typically start with the motor, you start with the fan, you throw a heater in there, and that's where it is, and you skin it. And you skin it in the most effective, efficient way possible. And this was a challenge because you can see that this is actually one of the more manufacturable concepts of the top concepts that we had, and doing it in such a way that you don't see fasteners, and doing it in such a way that approaches a consumer level of fit and finish, that approaches an automotive level of fit and finish, was extremely challenging. The bottom axis cover that you see there went through probably half a dozen versions before we came up with something that the team was ready to push the button on. So it was a challenge. I don't know what it's like for the other companies, but when you go from a more evolutionary process to something where you're doing something totally new, it really challenges the designers. It really challenges production. So for us, it took a lot of work, and things are positioned in places that they, in orientations that they weren't before, and we had to buy tooling we never had to buy before, and we had to expect our people in the shop to do things at a level of precision and care that they hadn't done before. So it was a challenge, but it was well worth it.
But one more thing you mentioned, and I'm trying to now extrapolate was Rob, the president of Lumicon, was saying in the earlier elements, earlier discussion too, is both Lumicon and you, Berner, you are made in the USA kind of
Hmm.
products. And I think that also helps in making sure your manufacturing and disruption did not happen, because you would decently control the logistics and the, I would
Yeah.
say, the amount of TLC that goes into making these products. And that's a pretty, means suddenly it just became a strategical advantage, right? Means you always were proud of what you are doing and you had your certain motive, but somehow
Mhm.
this bad COVID pandemic thing happened, but you still sustain through it going forward. So that might be a element of it. Talking about sustain or sustainability, means we all know, everybody in the audience knows, sustainability is coming out true good and true strong, and people are trying to go with levels of different kind of an velocity to see how they can make their product or the processes or their warehouses or their offices more sustainable. And I think your product, yeah, I mean, it is so innocent, but it's saving energy. It's creating, you said, I mean, keeping the dirt and the grime and the, let's say, pollens outside, creating
Mhm.
healthy, and then also creating a pleasing environment. So our people who are stating out in 2020 or 2030, we are going to be so much sustainable, depends on,
Oh,
it's a
for
little
sure.
different about what sustainable means. But are people seeking you out apart from just doing a functional or a beautiful thing to help them in the costing of sustainability? Because I think there is a model for a warehouse to save so much and it will just pay off the
Oh, for,
cost
yeah.
immediately.
Oh, for sure. And the air curtain industry was kind of justified on the warehouse, right? You have the biggest doors. Those are the doors that are open the longest. And in northern climates, those are the doors that allow the most energy to escape. And typically, that's where, like I said, that's where the industry started. That's where we kind of built ourselves. And yeah, absolutely. That's primarily kind of how they seek us out, is to prevent all this loss of energy. But again, saving energy, creating healthy, comfortable environments. Now it's not just saving energy. Like we just mentioned, it is about keeping out particulate. It is about keeping out insects. And now with some other technologies that we've implemented, the whole COVID thing has really made us realize that we have a huge opportunity in terms of cleaning the air that we circulate, and we have a unique position above the door, to do so. There's a lot of ways to clean air, but very few products move as much air as we do. And we've implemented technologies like needlepoint bipolar ionization to kind of reduce particulate and reduce pathogens. And there's a lot of things that we're doing that, not just in terms of saving energy, but like you said, as you move forward in the decades, I think more and more people are going to be concerned about the quality of the air they breathe, and not just saving energy. But it's
I,
great, when you talk about believing in what you do, I know that I'm saving energy. I'm preventing coal from being dug out of the ground. I'm preventing diseases from being spread. It's very fulfilling.
it is, and means as we rightly know, this is literally, means as you said, your main thing is keeping the doors open, right? But you are
Mhm.
literally, how I say, you're the threshold between two realms. Means inside
Yeah,
is
for sure.
comfortable or clean, all warm, and outside is cold and muddy and pollens. Means my kid, he has serious allergies because when the trees now start sneezing with pollens, it's a completely different thing. And the screen door doesn't help. It has to be completely
Mhm.
filled in. Means I think we should talk about doing one for a backdoor kitchen entrance where we can still use it to keep this things inside clean, and the kids keep the doors open and out, and they don't worry about the cost of the house or the air conditioning.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what
You
you're
develop
for.
one
You,
that's more
it's your job to
residential,
pay for all those
let's
things.
say, only for this back door.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. That's we always flirt with that idea. And yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll see.
Again, let's not talk about what we should not be talking. But coming back to the world of, I would say, quietness, means
Mhm.
I really kid you not. When I started my life over here with an apartment and then a condo and then finally bought my house, and literally, I'm not kidding. The first weekend, me and my wife having a cup of coffee, let's go and sit out on the deck, and noise, means the lawn mowers of the neighbors were going in and out, and it was like it was going to be a serene experience. Like, okay, finally we got it. We still have a house mortgage and we owe our life to a bank, but we could not enjoy the cup of coffee because that loudness of the noise was so so jaunting. And it
Oh,
still
sure.
happens when we enter. I go to my local gym. There is this big air curtain over there. It's not burners. It's like you open the door in winter.
And it
Bang!
blasts, Joe, for sure, for
That
sure. And
quietness
that's
is
a challenge in our industry is to an extent, you know, when you've got high velocity air exiting something, there's going to be some noise, right? There's just no physical way around it yet. You know, I think as soon as we have silent vacuum cleaners, you know, we'll have silent air curtains, right? But there's things you can do wrong, and you can do, you know, you can make things worse, and you know, and roughly half of that noise is from the air rushing out of the cabinet. And the other half of that noise is the air rushing into the cabinet to feed that. And so, you know, like the top intake of what we did is one kind of, you know, passive way where you can, you know, try and fundamentally make things better. So yeah, it's always a battle between effectiveness and noise. And, but for sure, I mean, that experience, your experience on your deck, you know, people's experiences inside a restaurant, it's directly affected by
and
noise.
that's a
So it's a big deal for us.
it's a big deal because means it's not, as you know, as Sundberg-Ferar, we go and cross pollinate needs and requirements from different domains as such, and the quietness comes pretty strong. It comes in the lawnmower industry. We're talking with that over there. We're talking
Mm-hmm.
over here too. uh, means Earlier we had designed dentist chairs and dentist lamps. Most
Sure.
people with everything else, they do not feel what's happening inside their root canal, but they can hear this high frequency going on, and that makes them uncomfortable. So I know there the revolutions per minutes are way high, but that sound itself
Mm-hmm.
has a completely different stigma to it. I know people, or we know people in the automotive world who buy the car based on how quiet the riding experience
Oh,
is.
for sure, for
Getting
sure.
more and more there. I don't want a let's say the person will say, I don't want a luxury vehicle because this was just before the COVID, where we are still doing lots of commuting and you're doing lots of conference calling between the car.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Why do not do that during that time, or call your friends and call your family and get that job done with? At that time, you need a anechoic chamber as your car, right? You don't need this
Right.
other thing. So quietness means both the elements, means ugliness, the aesthetics. Nothing in this world is devoid of aesthetics. So we are a part of that, and this
Sure.
quietness as such, it becomes too tiring. The fatigueness that comes with this constant noise or constant
Uh,
thing.
Fatigue. And again, it's so easy to bring back to that matrix in terms of, you know, understanding, you know, what the customer truly finds important, you know, and for you and for those people in the automotive world, you know, that sense of silence as they're going down the highway or if they're in traffic is so important. And when I have to unfortunately tear apart my washer or my dryer, it's fun to look and see, you know, how the other companies address this. And you can tell how products are built, you know, what is important to the customer, right? And at what lengths do they take to reduce vibration and reduce noise and things like that. So I think it really does just reinforce what we're talking about, and that the experience in this world, noise is just such a huge part of it.
We just got a note from Gary from the audience, like noise cancellation technologies are already there. Can
Mhm.
that wave be used, or other waves will be used to cancel that out? There'll be so many elements that eventually
Yeah, at the moment, and we've actually hired consultants in the past because we're like, you know, as this is such a huge aspect of what's important to our customers, what do the experts, you know, how can they help us? And of course, like I said, there's passive technologies which work reasonably well, you know, noise reducing material, you know, reducing line of sight to things that make noise. The active noise canceling seems to kind of need a specific point that you're hearing it and a specific point where it's created. You can do it. They do it in ductwork where, you know, you can produce a tone that has, I think, you know, an offset sine wave, and it does kind of cancel that. And in some, it's just one of those things that it's so application specific that it hasn't really entered our industry yet as something that's really effective. But it's always, you know, as all technologies do, as they evolve, I'm keeping a close look at them to see if it's something that'll help us and our customers.
That will be beautiful. I think you mentioned about the experiential element, right? And when you say about the experience economy, it's comprised of three domains. One is the physical product design domain. The
Mhm.
other one will be the servicing part of it domain that you have covered real nicely. And the third part is the digital application, digital experience also. And I know, can you talk a little bit about your app that you have designed for your
Mhm.
architecture series and the smartness and the connectivity or a sensorification that requires it?
Again, something that a typical customer wouldn't envision as providing value, right? But an air curtain is has historically been a static device in a very dynamic environment. And this Internet of Things has allowed us to now connect to weather sites and know what the weather's like in that area. And we've already been measuring what the temperature and some other aspects are inside the space. And the difference between those two, allows us to, oh, there we go. Yeah, there you go. Thank you very much, Judah.
Yeah,
So
that's
in addition to just the intuitive value of being able to control your product from anywhere, and if you are in a warehouse and you have 30 products, it gives you the ability to change them all from your phone. So there's convenience there. There's value to the customer in terms of uh, allowing them to do their job faster. But again, that unique position above the front door, the average end user would never say, "Hey, uh, I can count the number of times the door opens and closes, and I know when that happens. I can learn a little bit about my business by this data. I can actually maybe inform my staffing by knowing, how the flow of customers is coming through my wall, and I can compare that to previous years. There's kind of some neat actionable data that you can get from this, and again, those are the types of things that a lot of times people don't think of, but do provide value. So again, yeah, not just in terms of the control, but in terms of information and things that can help people run their business better.
no, and I think it's a beautiful tool. Means not only for the end user or the manager, that's the fleet operator of this all the air curtains, but I think as we might have talked earlier or during the project is about how you can be the aggregator of the sensorified data. Means in a way you are distributing this product across the nation, and
Mhm.
as much as you're talking about the weather conditions coming in, the sensorification of it, the amount of things coming in, and how we can use it as a part of a continual process of learning. Means eventually we all need data that's actually qualitative and quantitative from the voice of consumers and researchers, but also if we are trying to think about the smartness, right? What the smartness of a product means to the smart city, to a smart warehouse, to a smart product, and then
For
how we
sure.
can in a good way use the data with their willingness and use it for the next and the next and the next elements to go forward to. It's a quite, I would say, a trigger in the entire sustainability kind of a domain as such.
Mhm.
That's pretty interesting. I know we are almost on the time as such. Any nuggets of wisdom for people to think about let's talk about Berner also, but about what they should be looking forward when they're constructing a house.
Aha, in terms of the house. Oh Lord. Well, I tell you what, the one nice thing was I was able to lock in my price of lumber back in October, but that was just luck. So that's not so much wisdom. Yeah. But I don't know. I think, in not just if you're talking about a house, but just in things in general, as you build your experience, I think it's just to kind of trust your instincts a little bit. For this particular piece of land and this design, my wife and I really just kind of trusted ourselves and thought about the type of life we wanted to live and how we wanted to experience it and what was essential. So I guess trust your instincts is something that I've learned to do a
I
little bit
like the
more
way
in the
you're
past few
saying, and
years.
maybe it was a loaded question as such. Between me and my wife, means a house is a pretty big thing, and there are so
Yeah.
many, I would say, opinions about what is good, bad, or otherwise. How we have decided to tackle the house is anything outside the walls is my decision. It might be the grills, it might be the vegetable gardens, and everything inside the house becomes her. So if you want to choose a new sofa or the curtains, I am completely secondary. Yeah, I can still influence a little bit, but literally, that saved
Yes,
us a lot of battles.
that's right. That's why you're still married. You're smart.
Still
Good
happy
division.
married, yeah. So it's amazing because that's a pretty big undertaking, and
Oh,
hopefully
for sure.
you're going to add some of your air curtains to your house also.
I know.
Anyway, I
That's a fast hour. I tell you what, I appreciate it. I thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. It was fun to talk.
So once again, thank you again. I know we all missed Miranda, but we will try to find an appropriate topic for the next couple of sessions to get her again back on
That'd
the
be
stage.
fantastic.
And we wish her a speedy recovery.
Thank you all.